We had a very nice meeting. I pitched them like a loose idea for what I thought a Frasier reboot could be. And they were absolutely lovely. And by the time I'd gotten back to my car, I had already gotten an email that said, we're not going to use you. No, you don't have the experience level to bring Frasier back. So no, thank you.
It's the Deadline Junkies Screenwriting Podcast with your hosts, Jordan Imiola, Kirsten Porter, and Rand Shami.
It's funny because I brought up the screenwriter versus TV writer thing at the beginning. And I think part of it is because I do think of us as really different creatures, right? And I always tell people, if you are a brilliant writer, like if you're an incredible writer and you just like write gold, then like go be a screenwriter, like go sit in your attic with your typewriter and write beautiful words and sell them. But TV writing is not for you. Like TV writing is a communal thing where we sit in a room, like my last show had 12 writers and there are 12 of us around a big table and you're stuck for 40 weeks if you're on a network show with the same 12 idiots around a table for like 10 hours a day with no cell phones and no computers. And all you have to do is talk to them. And so there's this piece in television writing that is so important that I feel like is really underplayed or undervalued until you're in it, which is like, you have to be a good hang and you have to be likable and you have to be somebody who can get along with the group. And one of the reasons that assistants and PAs and script coordinators and move up and sort of get so many opportunities is because that's the audition year, right? Like that's your year of audition where they can sort of evaluate if you're a good hang and if you're smart. And I know I've said this before because people tweeted at me sometimes. I said it on some other panel or something, but I can, as a showrunner, I can take your shitty script and rewrite it, right? Like you give me episode 10, it's like, I'll take it home. I can do my past and turn it into the network. I can't do that to your shitty personality. And I think that is like the most important thing to know about TV writing. And so it's like, it's very dumb, but like the PA who comes in and like restocks the Diet Coke and puts the warm ones in the back and moves the cold ones to the front you're like, that person is so thoughtful. They'll be amazing in the room. I'm going to remember Tony because he was so thoughtful. He put the cold Diet Cokes in the front. And you're like, that's so stupid. What about my writing? And it's like my big secret, like my big shame is that when Patty and Laura, my first showrunners, gave me my freelance, they had never read me. I was like, do you want to read my script? And they're like, no. They're like, honestly, we're busy. We're gonna give it to you either way. So like, it's fine. And so then I like wrote an episode of network television having no one had read me. The network didn't read me. The studio didn't read me. The showrunners didn't read me. Like TV is yes, it matters. You have to be a good writer. You have to be a good storyteller, but you also have to be somebody who can sit in a room full of people and sort of foster this very delicate creative environment, right? Because it's really vulnerable pitching and it's really hard and emotional sometimes to share really personal stories about your life. And even in comedy, like when I was on Awkward, which was a half-hour comedy, like I would tell really like gnarly stories about my dating life. And like even that, which is like funny on the surface, still really sort of like one of the writers talked about shitting her pants on a first date, which like, and it's like this sort of, you have to have a safe enough space to be able to share those things and turn them into stories for TV. And so I think like my big piece of advice always is like, of course, right. Make your writing as good as possible, but don't be a dick. Don't be the asshole who comes in the room who's like, I won these 4 fellowships. I'm an amazing writer, because like, I don't really care. I can always rewrite your script, but I can't rewrite your personality and who you are in the room. And that's in TV sort of the magic of what makes a great room and a great experience.
It's the Deadline Junkies podcast with your hosts, Jordan Imiola, Kirsten Porter, and Rand Shami.
All right. Our guest today is Joe Cristalli, writer on Life in Pieces, Perfect Harmony, and the soon-to-be showrunner and executive producer on the Frasier revival. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much. Technically just creator, executive producer. Chris Harris has insisted on being the sole showrunner for season 1, which it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't say showrunner. I said executive producer.
Look, I don't want to show. It's too much pressure. It's too much control. I don't want any of that. I want Chris to have to deal with all that garbage. And I'm just going to sit back and yell jokes from the back of the room. And I'm perfectly content with the EP credit. So I think it's going to be fine.
All right. Good.
Yeah, just do the fun stuff.
Yeah. Are you going to yell
Can you
jokes?
talk about...
Are you going to yell jokes from the back of the Zoom?
Go ahead.
Oh, that's not bad. No, it was worth going back for finishing that one. I like that. That's good. And I will. I'll go. I'll run back and I'll run. When I come up with something good, I'll go back and yell it.
Okay, good.
So yeah, we're all really excited for Frasier coming back. Can you talk about the process of bringing it back and the Frasier for Hire tweets?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I'll be vague in some parts because we've been instructed not to say a word of the Frasier stuff. But I think all the stuff leading up to it is fair game. And if it's not, it's honestly it's Chris Harris's problem because I'm not the showrunner. I think it was like 2014. Frasier had probably been off the air for, I don't know, 12 years, 13 years or something. And I thought it would be funny. I was a writer's assistant on Last Man Standing, in that Tim Allen show. And I thought it'd be funny to start a Twitter account with the sole goal of becoming a writer on the defunct Frasier. It hadn't been a show in a long time. There was no talk of a reboot. I just thought if I started doing bits that you could see on Frasier, maybe they'd hire me on a show that didn't exist. So I did that for, I don't know, I did it for like 4 or 5 years to very mediocre acclaim. I think, the tweets were getting like maybe 30 likes on a good one. But then Kelsey came out in the news, Kelsey Grammer came out in the news and said he was looking to do a reboot. And weirdly at that time, I'd also written a Frasier spec script that nobody wanted, which seemed like just a great use of my time also, writing a spec script for a show that had been off the air for more than a decade. But weirdly, as I finished that script, that news came out that he wanted to do a reboot. So I emailed my agent. I was basically like, just send the script and the tweets to his producers. Maybe they'll meet with me. I mean, it shows at least that I have a knowledge of the show that's probably unsurpassed. Maybe they'll meet with me and maybe I'm not a lunatic. So the producers did meet with me. They were very nice. We had a very nice meeting. I pitched them like a loose idea for what I thought a Frasier reboot could be. And they were absolutely lovely. And by the time I'd gotten back to my car, I had already gotten an email that said, we're not going to use you. No, you don't have the experience level to bring Frasier back. So no, thank you. And they were right. I think I was a staff writer on Life in Pieces at the time. But I said to my agent, okay, so if let's find somebody who has a little bit of cachet in this town, someone who isn't me, who just has a Twitter following. So I called my friend Chris Harris, who I had worked with on How I Met Your Mother. He was the number 2 there, number 3 if you count Carter and Craig as 2 separate entities. And he was running The Great Indoors, and he's been showrunning he's the best. He's beyond smart. He's beyond funny. He's in another level than a lot of the writers that I've ever worked with. And I was just like, I have an idea for Frasier. You want to come help me make it like really good? And then we can go and try and take it to Kelsey. And he was like, okay. And we did. And for some reason, Kelsey liked it. And that was 2.5 years ago. So it's been a little bit of a slow, jaunty walk down the boardwalk, but we're getting there now. And now it's finally announced. And there's a chance people could see the show in the near future, which is very exciting. The process was almost as long as that explanation was.
So basically, if we get rejected, we should find somebody who is better and grab onto them.
Yes, and hang on for dear life. You find the coattails of a winner and you never let go. I wouldn't be here without Chris Harris, man.
Yeah,
that guy's very good.
Can you describe a typical day on the Loki Writers Room, and what was the schedule like?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know, we started at 10, me rushing in, realizing, oh shit, I can't be late. I'm charged, speeding down the 134, inhaling a hot spinach feta wrap, Starbucks, getting heartburn, having to talk through it the first 30 minutes of the day to say, all right, here's what we have to accomplish. We have to invent time travel today. And then it was a lot of, we had such a great writing staff, and it was a lot of different, incredibly brilliant people taking turns going up to the whiteboard and drawing lines with other squiggly lines coming off of it, saying, no, this is how it is, and having really, really passionate arguments about things that just simply do not exist. And it was a blast, but good. And it was a blast every day.
Do you have a preference, single cam or multicam?
As a performer, I prefer multicam because you have an audience. But no, I don't really have a preference per se as writing. Single cam, for the production side, it takes a little longer. It's a little more work because it's like shooting a mini movie every week. Whereas multicam, you just go on a sound stage and you just shoot it in 2 days or a day. But single cam, you got to go drive to this location, drive to that location. So it's a little more work on the production side of things. But the writing is pretty much, you're still writing, still telling stories, still telling jokes. But production-wise, it's way more work.
When you write a multicam, do you kind of always know, like, okay, I got to stay in this house and that house, if I have a new location, I got to think about that production. Do you always think about locations when you're writing multicam?
Yeah, you always got to think about locations and how big is your stage. Do we want to build the set? Because you don't want to build a set for one scene. So every time you're writing it, you want to write in sets that you already have. We build sets all the time, but you got to make the most of it. You don't want to build a set just for a 2 minute or 1 minute scene. So it's kind of like, let's just move that here. Let's try to figure out, or let's not do it like this because it doesn't make sense to build a set for a minute.
Yeah.
As a writer, do you think about the production side of it, or?
No, you think about the production a little bit, but sometimes we just write and we're like, well, that's their job. They got to figure that out. But you do think about, like, we're not going to say you blow up a car and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so you do think about something, but you do think about what can we actually really do? You know what I mean? Like, so some of the stuff you can't do. So it's like, it's not that show. So that's why single cam, you can go broad and be like, and he jumps in the aquarium pool, because you can go to the aquarium and do that, where, you probably could build a little small thing on a sound stage and act like it's a big pool, but that's a lot, so sometimes you be like, let's not even go through all that. So you're mindful of your sets and what you can and can't do.
You can find these podcast episodes in full on my website at www.jordanemiola.com.
Subscribe, rate, and review for more episodes. Thanks for watching the Deadline Junkie Screenwriting Podcast.